Hello, hello. We're just about to go live. We'll be back in just a moment. Stay tuned. I think I lost Andre though. Hello, hello. Welcome to Mondays with Tara and Andre. I'm Tara, and oh, there he is. Let's add him in.
We,
Hi,
we
Andre.
that was interesting. We were together speaking. I was asking a question, and then I had to rejoin. So here we are.
Hi.
How are you?
Hi, I'm well, thanks.
Mhm.
So everyone, welcome who's joining us live or in the replay. Welcome to Mondays with Tara and Andre. So let us know in the comments if you can see and hear us. Give us a yes or a thumbs up or something. And yeah, if you're watching us live, if you put hashtag live or hashtag replay, that would be awesome too, because we love to know who's with us live and who's joining us in the replay.
Right.
And all these things, all these requests this morning. We'd also love to know where you're joining us from, because this is a worldwide community and we're so curious as to where everybody's from, because some people are joining at different time zones and all of that stuff. So yeah, drop us a flag and your city in the comments.
Oh yeah,
So
that's a great idea. Yeah, absolutely. If we could make that map that we talked about, right, of the globe, and
mhm.
see where everybody's coming from. I'd spoken to somebody the other day, and they said that they were in London, and I wasn't sure if it was UK or Ontario, but that they could join our group from wherever they were, and that they could invite their friends to do so as well. So it's pretty cool that we become really this global thing, and people are connecting with each other. That's awesome. That was the spirit that we built it in, right? Yes, welcome from Washington, D.C. Hello to our USC cousins. Just to kind of go back to the origins of this, right? You and I were on the beach at Hanlan's in Toronto, the nude beach, the wonderful nude beach that they have there. And then the pandemic came, and we're like, well, let's find a way to keep in touch with everybody. There's Kik, there's WhatsApp, there's Telegram, there's all these things. And you said, well, why don't I just make it easy and make this Facebook page? I'll make this group. And then
Mm-hmm.
we invited our closest 10, 20 friends, and then they
Mm-hmm.
invited a couple of people. And before you knew it, here we are now into the trillions of people.
Well, not quite the trillions,
That's
but that's a good reminder. People have friends that might be interested in polyamory or just curious. Even if they're not polyamorous or open or non-monogamous, you can invite people that you want to understand what it's like to be like this, if you'd like. So invite your
It's so
friends.
interesting. As you said, it makes me think about the idea, the way that we might announce ourselves, saying, "Oh, I'm bi-curious," right? And people, I think, get a pretty good idea what that means. But are we poly-curious? Do we have a term for
Hmm.
I'm in this and wanting to? Yeah. What did you come up with? What do you have?
No, I don't have anything. So if anybody has a term, drop it in the comments, because I actually don't know. I think
Mm,
people just say they're curiously exploring or curious or
yeah.
interested or yeah. And then they might be secretly interested or they might actually be interested with somebody else. Because that's another
Hmm.
thing that I find when I'm letting people into the groups. One of the things that people talk about is not knowing how to open up the idea with a partner, with an existing partner.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. Speaking about that, between the being bi and being poly and coming out and opening it up, it's so interesting how many people tell me that they feel as though being bi is like the last I don't know, what would you call it, like parameter, the last function, the last area identification in our sexual spectrum. That being gay or trans seems much more viable, easy to express than being a bi male, for example, right?
Mm.
And how that seems to also parallel in being in open relationships, right? That we are,
Mm-hmm.
in a sense, the last dominion there, right? So it's okay to be single or to be married, but being poly is still in its fledgling experience, but it's becoming much more accepted. But to that point, whew, all of this to say that today in many parts of Canada, and let us know where you're from if it's the same, today is Family Day.
Exactly,
Aha.
exactly.
But what is a family? So I asked my friend Siri if she could give me a definition, and she said a family is consisting of one or more parents, yada, yada, yada. And
Oh,
I wondered,
interesting.
yeah, interesting. So how many parents are we going to allow? How many can we accept?
Mhm.
So I can fall in love with you, and that's well accepted, and maybe we get married, and that's also recognized as far as legally, through tax implications, all that. If I become in love with two people, well, I can legally recognize one, but beyond that, I fall into the dangerous category of being a polygamist, which is
Mm.
legal in many areas, right?
Mhm.
So it's a family is one or more parents, but how many parents can we recognize, right? So if we subscribe to the idea of raising a child by a village, how many parents can we like to have? How many friends or lovers or parental figures can we enhance this person's life with? So if I have, let's say I am bisexual, by example, I have a lot to say about this. I'm sorry. Let's say,
Clearly.
let's say I am a heterosexual person and I have one wife, or forget about the sexual orientation, but I have one spouse, but can I recognize the other? So in this polyamorous way, I love you and I love my other partner or partners, but they're not able to be recognized. So how do we negotiate all those little intricacies, all those little subtleties? And
Mhm.
it's a little bit unfortunate that it has to be as though their way of looking at it is the only way. They're the legal way. They are the institution, and anything that is done outside of that is either illegal or perverse or just not spoken of.
Yeah.
And I think that's a real big disservice, right? Because we're wanting to spread love, not be limited by hate.
Okay. Well, thanks for that TED Talk on families.
Hmm.
I just want to say something, but I think we should get onto the topic because we said we were going to be short today. We keep it short. But in terms of families, the other thing that's interesting is like recognizing couples or partnerships where people don't live together is
Mhm.
interesting. So some benefit providers, I remember when I was looking into it for us, we didn't live in the same location, but I considered you my partner, and as such should be qualified to get benefits. And they were like, nope, if you have a different address, it's probably not going to work. So it's interesting, this whole idea of family. And I think there's positive things that are changing, but I think it requires people to speak out because lots of people want to do co-parenting and have multiple relationships that form a family, the new kinds of families. So, yeah.
To your point about whether or not we would be recognized by your provider, my mom always used to say, follow the money, right? In any crime, follow the money. So why would they want to object? Is it really for moral issues that they think we are threatening to their way of existing? Or is it because it will affect their bottom line? Because, it's going to affect their profit. If we are somehow in different locations, are you then going to invite a whole bunch of different people and say that they're all your partners, right? So,
Right.
is it that their model is based simply on finance, or is it part to do in a moral aspect? Well, if they recognize us, then where does it stop? And is it threatening to their own set of beliefs? No, I say that seriously because I remember when you announced to your family that you were polyamorous, it seemed as though they were not wanting to entertain that idea. It seemed almost threatening, but we should
Yeah.
be able to accept their position. But they seem sometimes, and I'm not identifying just your family, it's unfortunate throughout, that other people seem to be rather intolerant of anything that's not known to them. And
Yeah.
why can't we just have a dialogue about that and find out, how we can work for all of us? Or I'm not asking you to subscribe to my way of believing, but at least allow me to have my own without
Mhm.
making it illegal or condemned.
And beyond the legal considerations, even if you don't want to have a legal connection between you can, people do run up with issues in terms of like families saying, I think I heard this one from my family is like, well, I hope you're not going to bring your other partners here. You know what I mean? So there's that kind of stuff. But I think we're going a little off topic
We certainly
today.
are.
But I just learned today that Family Day is actually not a national statutory holiday in Canada. So it's only observed in a few of the provinces, and they all have different names. So I think in Manitoba, it's Louis Riel Day. I don't know. Anyways.
Which is like, he was a revolutionary, right? That's totally unrelated to being Family Day. But I guess they said, well, let's make a civic holiday and we'll go.
Yeah, I think they wanted to give a break between New Year's and Good Friday as like there's a big gap there, and it's also in winter, and so giving people a break. But anyway,
Good Friday,
Family Day.
Good Friday, that other pagan day that we're meant to say.
I think we should celebrate our chosen families. I really like our chosen family. And I know one of our close friends on Super Bowl, I was at a party with them, and she said that she feels actually like that we're more her family than her family by blood. So, anyway, there we go. So on to the show. So anyone who hasn't watched us before, we don't often start in this kind of debate thing, but we do come live here every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern and talk about topics around polyamory, open relationships, swinging, and all the things from our 5+ years being non-monogamous, and also our training and work with couples in this area. So
we certainly do. And to that, I want to add, I think we've said it before, but it's always worth restating. If you have any questions, whether you're, too shy or not to ask them anyway. You can ask them anonymously, but please, this is a group forum. It was started so that we could really talk about this in a very naturalized, acceptable way. Everything from STD testing to what is a family to how do I announce my difficult positions, how do I create trust and communication, all those things. Any questions, please feel free to bring them up. We'd love to talk about it.
That's a great point, Andre. I'm just realizing when you're saying post them anonymously, I mean, people can always send the questions to us and we can answer them or put them in the group for to share. But there is a function in the group to post anonymously. But I was going to turn it on after telling people about it, like how it works, because I think people don't understand that the admins of the group see the anonymous posts. So we would see it. So it's not 100% anonymous, but it is anonymous. It doesn't get posted with your name. So anyways, maybe we can get that function going, because I think that's a great point is, let's ask questions. Let's ask all the questions because we're curious about what people are interested in. Like, we come up with things every week, but maybe we're not hitting on the things that you want us to talk about. So
that's true too. And also I really want to create an environment where people feel, well, if maybe I can't ask it anyplace else, but I can always ask it there, right? That you could always announce your position here. No matter what your thoughts or feelings or ideas are, it lands somewhere on the spectrum of human existence. And if you've had it, chances are other people have had it too. And why don't we just talk about it and find out, what it's all about? It'll bring us out of the closets and normalize our way.
Yeah.
There's more than one family. So
yeah, that's awesome. I love the post earlier, I think on the weekend or Friday, maybe I posted it about asking people what advice you would give to people starting. And people had some really great comments. I love it. So thank you everyone who contributed to that post. That's awesome. So today we have our topic at the bottom of the screen, the 3 things holding you back from having a secure, satisfying, and successful polyamorous relationship. So stay to the end, because we are going to have a special announcement and something for you. And in case you want to make sure you're able to come live, or at least you get the link to join the replay. I can't help it, Andre. Every time I say that word.
I love it because people often think of me as that guy. So it's refreshing to see it really come across from you as well.
If you would like to get the link to join us live or catch the replay, you can sign up with Ms. Polli, our little chatbot assistant, and they will give you the link just before we go live. And anything that we share, any attachments, any worksheets or anything like that. So that's Polli. We'll make sure we drop the link as well. And I think it's in the post for this too. All right. So
you want to talk about the 3 steps of our framework to getting more secure polyamorous relationship?
Yes. So let's lead into it, though. I have something to say first.
I'm sure you do. Let's hear it.
Mr. Family Day. I want to ask everybody what's holding them back from having a secure, satisfying, and successful open or polyamorous relationship. So I'm just curious if people want to drop their share in the comments if there's something that they feel that's holding them back from getting basically what they want, right, in the relationship. And I put this in the post, but our thing is that we're actually, to get you thinking, it's the 3 things maybe that you're not doing, or at least not doing well or completely. So that's the thing. So
what should we start with then?
yeah, so last week, if people missed it, we talked about attachment styles. So the replay is in the group, and there was a great worksheet. So that was, I just want to make sure people got that. But this week, we're going to give a little bit of preview because we're going to kick off a 3-week Securely Polyamorous series. So the 3-step framework for creating wildly successful, secure, and satisfying relationships. So we're going to do it over the next 3 weeks. This week, we're going to just give you a quick overview, and then we're going to carry on next week with each of the 3 items. So the 3 steps of our Securely Polyamorous framework. So we'll teach you the exactly what our proven process is, so you can start applying it for yourself. So, okay, so now, Andre, the 3 steps in Securely Polyamorous, and we're using polyamorous as an overarching term. It could mean open relationship, open marriage,
consensual non-monogamous. Consensually non-monogamous, CNM, ENM. There's a whole bunch of titles for it. Basically, it's anything outside or including but open to that mono model. Right?
Yeah, polyamorous is just a single. It's easy just to say one thing. It gets really wordy if you try to include all the things. So we're using that.
And if people have issue with the use of polyamorous as the umbrella term, then please contact our legal department for our disclaimer.
Okay.
So it starts with communication, right? Number 1.
Yes. So there's 3 steps to the framework.
Yeah. And we always say communication, but it's really communication. It's so interesting because so often when we do come across people who are curious, who are wanting to open up and explore, very often it's the orientation, the idea is like, wow, I'm going to open this up and have a lot of sex, and it's going to be like, kinky times and all that stuff. And it may well be. But even before you get to that point, if you really want to do it well, if you want to have more of that, it starts with the foundation. And the foundation is built upon communication. You have to be able to figure out what it is that is turning you on, and then find a way of announcing that, and then listening to what your partner or partners are wanting and being able to receive their communications. And then once we have that basis, then we can go out and start thinking about those kinky, sexy times. But it really does start with communication.
Yeah, so communication is I would say the foundation of our entire framework. And this framework, this 3-step framework, is carried through in our program. These are just kind of the bundles of the big things. So communication, so effectively communicating what you desire, any concerns you may have, understanding and communicating your boundaries and your values, like I said, as a foundation. So these are the kind of the main components.
And it's interesting. Listen to you and I speak. I think to myself, well, of course, I know how to communicate. I've been communicating my whole life, right? But do I know how to communicate effectively? Do I know how to listen with my open heart? Am I able to really pick up on what is being said? And it's easy when we're both wanting the same thing. That's quite easy to communicate. But what happens when there is a little bit of grit in that grease, right? How are we going to communicate the things that might be more difficult to announce, the things that maybe we're not wanting, or where we have some kind of gap in that? So there are ways of communicating, and then there are ways of communicating effectively.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about in the part about communication being like open and completely honest, because I think sometimes people hold back from communicating everything. And, it might be out of a desire to protect yourself, protect your partner from your feelings. There's a lot of reasons people do it, but it can end up causing problems along the way, like building up resentments or things happening that you really don't want to happen. That sort of thing. Like people, I talk to people all the time in the DMs, and, one of the common things I hear is people say, well, I don't want to tell my partner that I'm uncomfortable with this because I want them to be happy, but I'm really having a hard time with this, and they don't want to burden their partner with that. But then they hold on to that, and then it like builds up over time, and it actually makes things worse, for the other person. You have this goal of them being happy, but you're actually, our partners can tell when we're not we're not good with things, right? So
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think
And that's not going to lead towards a sustainable, satisfying, secure relationship, right? We're just simply going to be doing it because we think that it's what the other person wants, when maybe it doesn't really match our values or the agreements we would like to have. But a lot of that in having difficulty announcing our position, being able to communicate effectively and openly might also indicate our attachment style. And that's also something that we address, right? So are we secure in the way that we're going to feel in announcing our position? Are we secure in the relationship? And when we're not, we're less likely to be able to communicate openly and securely, to appreciate the other person's position. If we don't feel secure, how are we going to imagine ourselves being in a secure relationship?
exactly.
Mm-hmm. So that is one of the components that we also can look at, is how are we able to be more secure within ourselves, and then in our relationship with our partner or partners, and then the community at large.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, you got ahead of us. That's part of the number 3 one. So number 1 in the securely polyamorous framework was communication. The second is clarity.
Yeah, what do you mean by that?
So clarity is being getting clear exactly what you want. Like, what is your intention out of being in a polyamorous or open relationships? What is it you want out of it? And not to say that that want has to be static. It may change over time, but kind of like doing that work to determine like what exactly is your vision of what you imagine being in a polyamorous could be like for you and for your partner. And then also your partner figuring out, or partners figuring out what they want. And then from this, building a relationship vision around that. So having like real clarity on what's happening. Because I think what often happens, and we've seen it, is that people go like, this is a great idea. And then they like jump right in, right? Without really a plan on how it's going to roll out, or what really they want, or they may make assumptions or not really consider, what will happen when their partner starts dating other people, or, that sort of thing,
That clarity is, in fact, what many would call the first step to the cure, right? The cure being a 4-step process. First step, knowing what it is you're wanting, and then finding a way of getting it and being happy having it. But it is in that clarity that we will find out the things that we're wanting and not wanting, and what are our partner or partners wanting and not wanting. But as I come up, I wondered to myself, I'd like to ask you the question, do you think that there's, for you, a difference in comfort level as to announcing the things that you want or things you don't want? Is it easier for you to say what you're wanting as opposed to not wanting, or is there any kind of correlation? How do you feel about letting it be known what you're wanting or not wanting?
That's such a good question. I think it depends. Depends the context, right? I think I've gotten much better in speaking my wants and my not wants.
Maybe it's just a question to reflect on. I think it's something that we can all look at. But I was wondering if there was.
What do you think? What do you think for yourself before you go ahead?
I think it might be easier for me to say the things that I'm not wanting. I think saying no, or I'm not interested in that, is easy enough. I don't necessarily feel as though I have to justify it as much or needs as big an explanation. And saying the things that I want might be a little bit more difficult, because I think I'm concerned about how it might land. How are they going to accept it? Are they going to understand my desires for these things? Is it going to be well communicated? In a way, it also makes me feel perhaps more vulnerable, right? So I can say, oh, I'd like this kind of sexual act, and it's, the emotional investment might not be as high, but to say that I want some type of ongoing emotional connection might have a greater level of emotional investment, and then make me feel perhaps a little bit more vulnerable. So asking, I think, in some circumstances might be more difficult than saying what I don't want.
Yeah, I think I was going to say that too. I think it's harder to announce what you want, because you may be worried that you're asking for too much, your partner won't agree to it. Maybe it's embarrassing, maybe.
But essentially, when I already jump ahead and think about how it's going to land with my partner or partners, I am, in a sense, future forecasting and answering for them. They have no consent to it, right? Well, they're not going to want that, or they wouldn't like this. How do I know? I haven't announced it, but am I secure enough in myself to be able to put myself there and ask for the things I'm wanting? So it's something that we can look at.
Yeah, I worked with somebody who was married, and prior to being married, they'd had some like bisexual experiences, and but had sort of dropped it when they got married, and was really interested and felt like it was a part of them that they were hiding. And through talking about it, they were afraid to talk to their wife about it, and also about being open so that they could have these opportunities. And then finally we got them, prepped them to have the discussion with their wife. They had the discussion and it went amazingly well. Their wife also said that they are bisexual. And then they started on this journey of totally transforming their relationship just after having it's so interesting, but it's fear, right? You don't know what's going to happen once it's out of your mouth. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. We don't know how it's going to land. And, we're not guaranteeing that it's going to always land in our favor. But the thing is, at least these two people gave themselves a chance by speaking openly and honestly about it. Imagine if they had not, and they would both have to closet that aspect, that facet of themselves, and be embarrassed by it, or be afraid that it's going to be found out, or who knows what, right? Whereas this way, they can say, well, at least I was honest with myself and honest with my partner, and then we'll see where we go from there. Whether it's something we want to continue in, or we want to go someplace else, that remains to be seen. But it is the idea of self-acceptance and being able to announce our own position.
Exactly. So that's the part about clarity. And part of what we do in our program is we do a relationship visualization with people that work with us so that they can build that vision of what it is you want. Because I think when you're really clear on what it is you want, the path to get there is so much easier.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
And you can also recognize it too, even the types of partners that you want, right?
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, the path is being clear because you know the destination. If you don't know the destination, then how do you know which path you should follow?
Exactly. Right? Exactly. So then once you have your vision, you can then create a relationship blueprint to make it happen. So your step-by-step plan. So that was number 2, is clarity. So number 3.
Just going back just a second there, speaking about the people that we work with, ideally, we will show you how we can do things like communication attunement, how we're able to set up these models to speak in more comfortable terms. But for many people, very often, they don't know this yet. And being with us, we will create a safe platform, a safe environment for you to make those kind of announcements. We will help draw these things out. So sometimes it might be difficult initially to come to your partner, your friend, and say, well, this is what I'm wanting straight out of the blue, if we're not yet so secure. But we will show you how we're able to do that. We can be that mediation, that conduit for which you're able to express your preferences.
That's a really good point. Having like a safe place to do that.
Yeah.
Safe and supported place to do it, to announce your feelings. Yeah. It's pretty amazing.
Sure is. It might seem, no, but I marvel at it because it might at times seem rather daunting or overwhelming in the beginning. Like, oh my God, where do I start? They're never going to be on board with this, or I'm embarrassed by my desires, or all these things. And yet once we start going into it, we find out, you know what, this is digestible. I can get this. And I think you and I are great examples of that, right? So before getting into this kind of relationship, I would not have imagined that it would have been so rewarding, so available to me. And yet here we are living that very thing. And many of our friends do as well. So it is possible for you to have this as well, if it's what you're wanting.
Yeah, and our vision has changed over time. We certainly started in one place and we've transitioned to a totally different place. But that's because we built the foundation of communication and all that stuff, and being comfortable in announcing our desires. I think being with you, I feel like it's the easiest, most communicative situation for me that I've ever been in. So I feel like I can share with you what I want or what I don't want, and have a conversation about it, like how we can make it happen. So
yeah, absolutely. And to that, I would say it's easier for me to speak openly with you in these terms as well, because of the shift in my attachment style, in feeling more secure, not only with you, but with myself. So
So that,
yeah, it's bountiful.
it's bountiful.
Well,
So
no, but it pays off in many ways. Not only am I, having what I first set out to do, which was have more sex and more love. I've gotten those, but those seem almost like the wrapping to the actual present. The present was being able to be present with myself in a loving relationship, and then be present with you and others in loving, open relationships.
I love that. Be present in a loving relationship with yourself and with somebody else. That's pretty amazing.
Somebody else in the plurals.
Somebody else's.
Somebody else's. Yes.
Else's. Well, that's a good segue into the third one, which is connection. So, as being part of the secure polyamorous framework is becoming more connected with your partners by developing secure attachment within yourself and in your relationship. So having both that security in self, but also the security within your relationship and building that. As well as increasing satisfaction, desire, and intimacy in a relationship, which are also important to be securely polyamorous.
Yeah, and just as a little side note there, when we speak about connection and loving relationships, it's not to say that there's no place for solo poly or anarchists in this, right? So the connection is whatever you want it to be. It could be a loving thing where you guys end up being forever, whatever. But it could also simply mean that you are authentic and ethical about what it is you're wanting or not wanting. There's no one way. It's like in Family Day today, right? There's no one recognized family. There are many different shades to this. So whatever it is, but it's the idea that we might feel as though we are free and secure and able to announce the type of connection that we're wanting or not wanting. And then we invite the other so that they can consent to it as well. It is the ethical part of it, is the consensual part of it.
Yes. Thank you. Thanks for that clarification. That's great.
Well, it's just it's a good reminder. Yeah.
What were you going to say?
Well, I mean, because I think in hearing myself say about it, talk about it, it might sound as though we are simply wanting to advocate for the idea that you and I could be kind of like this het norm couple that then opens up our relationship. And that's one facet, but there are many, many different shades in this rainbow, many different possibilities, many different relating styles, all are as valid. The one thing we really ask for, though, is that it be communicated openly, ethically, that we ask for consent in doing this. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So
I feel like the only thing left to advocate on my soapbox today is make my public service announcement of that we get regular STD testing. We were just invited. STD, STI, I mix them up. Infection, disease, whatever it is, that they're sexually transmitted, right? So being in this, we are part of a community, and we ask that all members participate in both the actual testing of it and the dialogue to it. So we ask that we all be mindful of this, because what you do does affect me and what I do does affect you. So this is a communal thing, and we should have no judgment to this. This is in many ways as if we had caught a cold. We would not judge somebody for having a cold. Well, if somebody has some STD or some STI, we ask them to act responsibly, but having it in itself is not a moral consideration.
Exactly. Oops, what happened here? I lost there we go. So today we talked about the 3 things holding you back from having a secure, satisfying, and successful polyamorous relationship, which was actually the things that you don't have or don't have as well, which are the 3 I can't say anything today. The 3 steps of our securely polyamorous framework, which are communication, clarity, and connection. So we're going to talk a bit more about these over the next 3 weeks. We'll start next week. And then what's exciting, which I wanted to share with everybody, is that we will be having another jealousy masterclass. We did this in January, and people found it really helpful. And there's lots of new people in the group, and also people maybe that weren't able to come. So we're going to have it again. And so we're just trying to figure out the exact date, probably the week of March 13th. So if you're interested, you can drop jealousy in the comments, and I'll make sure that you get the link to it as soon as we have the sign up page set up. Yeah. And then the other thing to share is if you're trying to ready to understand what's getting in the way of your having a secure, satisfying, and successful, that's a lot of S's, relationship, and walk away with a bit of an action plan to get next steps of how you can get it, then you can book a relationship rescue call with me. It's free, and I'll put the information up here. It's a 45-minute call. We go over, what's getting in the way of what you want, and then we'll come up, like I said, with an action plan of next steps that you can take on your own or with our support. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Family Day. I'm excited to reunite with my family, you, later today.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Okay, thanks. What's that?
I say I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. It's been too long. All right. Thanks, everyone, for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.